Hello, I'm James, and welcome to another Jonesing for Film theatrical review. Yes, the Avengers, the highly anticipated Marvel release. So the Avengers features Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the Hulk. And they must face off against Loki, who has acquired the Cosmic Cube, or Tesseract, that was featured in Captain America. With the Tesseract, Loki plans on unleashing a deadly army in order to take over Earth. Now our heroes must stop him, and what follows is the best comic book film I have ever seen. Now this movie has been in build-up mode since 2008, and that build-up has paid off. There is not a single thing wrong with this film in my eyes. First off, the acting is just perfect. Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark. I cannot see the Iron Man franchise being anything without him. Chris Evans was amazing as Captain America, which really isn't a surprise. I love every role Evans has done. He's just such a fun actor to watch. And he pulls off the serious moments too. Mark Ruffalo was a pretty good Bruce Banner, but I still have to say Edward Norton's my favorite. No hate to Ruffalo, he did his part very well. I just like Norton a tad more. Chris Hemsworth was very enjoyable as Thor. He's another one of those you can't see someone else fitting the role. Scarlet Johansson had a much bigger role here as Black Widow. I felt that her role in Iron Man 2 was simply so she could be eye candy, and they made her Black Widow just so she was relevant to the comics. So I appreciate that they expanded her role here. And speaking of expanded roles, Jeremy Renner returns as Hawkeye in a much larger role than his Thor cameo. And after seeing this, I want a Hawkeye movie. This guy is badass. And seeing Renner throw down in this and Mission Impossible 4 last December, I'm super excited to see him in Bourne Legacy now. Tom Hiddleston as Loki was casting genius. You can tell that he is enjoying every single minute as Loki and putting that into the character. And finally, you have the man himself, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. What else can I say? You say Samuel L. Jackson and everything speaks for itself. Whew, okay, so that covers acting. Now let's move into story. I was afraid that the movie would be like Transformers 3 or something with Marvel heroes. Heavy on the action, very light on the story. My fears did not come true. There is a great story driving this film, and the best part is that it's character driven. Another slight fear was I was worried that this was going to be the Iron Man show featuring assorted guests, but they were able to flesh out each character to an extent. Everybody gets a decent amount of screen time and no one overshadows anyone. Everybody is relevant, and these character-driven scenes have some amazing dialogue. Like I said in my Cabin in the Woods review, Joss Whedon knows how to write sharp dialogue. One of my favorite scenes in this movie was just a scene with Banner and Stark talking science. It was slightly relevant to the story, but even if it wasn't, it was still very entertaining. And with sharp dialogue comes very sharp humor, and this film has quite an amount of humor. This film was insanely hilarious. You know, I figured that there would be like a one-liner here, a Stark joke there, but there is so much more than that. And some of it isn't even dialogue. Some of it was just certain events that happened. But whether it was spoken or not, it was all crowd-pleasing. The entire audience was applauding. This movie could pass as a comedy just as easily as an action movie. Yeah, even though the film is character-driven and it's got a great story, it is, at its core, an action movie. And, in all honesty, it's quite possibly the greatest action movie I've ever seen. It's shot really well, there's very little shaky cam, and it's insanely entertaining. My eyes were glued to the screen, and the action is constant throughout. There's like 4 or 5 major action scenes, and then the 30 to 40 minute climax. And the action itself is really intense. And the reason behind this is because time was taken to flesh out the characters. So when they're thrown into these situations, you actually care what's going to happen to them. And yes, each character has had their own movie, like, developing themselves, and they're developed even further in this along with the action. And I saw this film in IMAX, and it was definitely worth it. The 3D, not so much. Some of the flying scenes were cool in 3D, but overall, once again, the 3D was unnecessary. But the IMAX was definitely worth it. So needless to say, The Avengers gets a spectacular. This is easily my favorite film of 2012, and there's only one other movie I can see possibly taking that spot. But I won't know for sure until July. Simply put, The Avengers was totally wicked! You took the words right out of my mouth, Tricycle Kid from The Incredibles. So that is my review of The Avengers. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Also, don't forget to visit me on Facebook and check out my blog. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next review.